So it's great to be back, except not like this. I mean, I would love very much to be hyped to get things back to normal after the holiday break. But then again, this morning, nothing feels normal, obviously, because I don't think any of us can really think about very much other than Damar Hamlin and his family and his team and everyone who understands that what happened last night was traumatic and will never be forgotten, and that, in fact, it rendered that game completely meaningless. I tweeted as much last night, and I want to say it again right now. This is what I said last night. Pray for Damar Hamlin and his family, and absolutely this game should be canceled. The game did not matter. The only thing that mattered was and is a young man fighting for his life. The game simply did not matter. Nor did the playoff implications or seedings or TV ratings or sponsors or gambling or fantasy action associated with that matchup. None of it mattered. It still doesn't. The players know the risks that are associated with engaging in such a violent sport. But that didn't make last night any less horrifying, because I've never seen anything quite like that. Nor have I seen players react the way they did on both sides. Understandably. Because it was one of the most disturbing, terrifying things ever. Here's the latest update from the Buffalo Bills, which came last night before 1 a.m. Eastern Time. And I quote, Damar Hamlin suffered a cardiac arrest following a hit in our game versus the Bengals. His heartbeat was restored on the field, and he was transferred to the UC Medical Center for further testing and treatment. He is currently sedated and listed in critical condition. End of statement. Terrifying words to read out loud, and unfortunately, that's what we have right now. That's essentially the information that we have right now. So, of course, we'll continue to monitor and keep you updated as we learn anything more on his status moving forward. But for right now, that's all we have. If for some reason you missed it last night, Hamlin went down after a collision with T. Higgins midway through the first quarter. He had to be given CPR on the field for multiple minutes and then received oxygen before he was lifted into an ambulance. 16 minutes after he collapsed, he was then on his way to UC Medical Center, and the game never resumed. The question was not whether or not to postpone that game, but rather what took so long to do so. That game stopped mattering as soon as Damar's heart stopped beating on the field. The decision to postpone that was one of the easiest decisions ever, because what we had just witnessed was one of the worst things ever. Yet, to virtually everybody at home watching that broadcast, that appeared to be the plan. They were going to try and play that game. They were going to try and resume that game in 5 minutes. Players on the field were sobbing. Others were in shock. Many were looking away, terrified. Did it look like anybody on that field wanted anything to do with continuing that game? The game simply did not matter. So forget this nonsense about nothing is bigger than the game. A human life is bigger than the game. And a man continues to fight for his at this very moment. So no credit for doing the right thing in postponing that game. I'm still not sure why it took as long as it did for that decision to be made. Because, as I mentioned, I have never seen anything like that. And I'll never forget seeing that either. Again, thoughts and prayers are with Damar Hamlin and his loved ones, and we'll continue to monitor that situation and hope for the best, because at this point, sadly, there's nothing else that we can do. Nothing other than to open this up and let me provide a platform for those of you who want to talk about this. Because again, these are the days, more than any other on this show, when you should be on the phone or you should be on social media, coming together and sharing your thoughts if you want to. You know, again, this is not a serious caller-driven program typically. We have fun with the calls, but it's on these days when I'm not saying that you have to. I'm not saying that you should. I'm saying if you'd like to. A number of you think they know what they signed up for. They get paid a whole lot of money. I would do the same thing. I know this. The players know this. The players know the inherent risks. The players know what they signed up for. The players know that there's potentially extraordinary wealth. They know these things. They know these things, but did you see the reaction last night? It doesn't make it any less traumatic. It doesn't make it any less disturbing. Even if we knew that this was a possibility, it did play out last night. And we all saw it. And I'm not saying that we spend 3 entire hours on this, although we could. I'm just saying that this is the most important topic far and away. And it's one of those days where it's hard to think about other things. And believe me, before seeing that game last night, and like everybody else, I was so excited about that game, one of the games of the year. And I was coming out, and believe me, the last couple of days I've been fired up and hyped up to get back to work, to get back to the show, to talk about some things that have happened in the last couple of days especially, and now it's hard to do so. One bit of reaction before I go to break. Morning, Jim. I feel like I knew something went terrible ahead of the announcers realizing last night. I'm with you. I was of the immediate mindset to call that game. If the NFL would have made that choice or gotten their way to continue to play, I would have had to make a choice to no longer watch the NFL. I hope they make a permanent choice to always put players over profit with no flinch. Wesley near Boise. Listen, the NFL generally pushes through virtually everything. That to me was not a difficult decision. I'm sure that in trying to make that decision, they wanted to be deliberate. They wanted all the information. They were looking for an update. I'm sure they were hoping for good news. And they did not want to postpone that, but had to. I mean, even the NFL, even the Shield. To me, that was an absolute no-brainer. That was not a difficult decision. That was not a difficult decision because of how disturbing and traumatic it was. A man was fighting for his life. All right? I don't want to hear this is what they signed up for. Yes, they know the inherent risks. They do. Yes, we know how violent this game is. We all know this. But a human life is more important than the game. The game did not matter. So, to me, it was not a question of if, but a matter of when. I'm not sure why it took as long as it did before they made that decision. This was not an individual taken off the field on a cart. This was an individual who stopped breathing on his own. You saw the immediate reaction of the players on the field. I mean, I think you talk to anybody who's had any kind of long-term association with that league or with sports and would tell you they've never seen anything like that before. It was different, is what I'm saying. I think that there's a certain expectation when you watch the NFL that it's extremely violent. It's extremely dangerous. We know this. We watch it for our own entertainment. They know when they signed up for it. What I'm saying to you is this was very different. Very different. 1-800-636. It was a no-brainer. Absolutely you postpone that game. I can't believe there was even a discussion. There might have been a protocol and a certain amount of deliberation, but that was the ultimate outcome, of course. And it shouldn't have taken as long as it did.